Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Tex once again with the Intersect Open Source Office. We're going to go over another little bit of a sort of like a project demo, but or a project interview, but it's going to be a little bit different format here. I'm meeting with Bogdan today, and Bogdan was part of our partnership with Tweag and Modus Create as far as getting some support to build our open source office. Bogdan, would you mind giving us a few minutes on yourself there?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tex. Yeah, I'm Bogdan. I'm located in Bucharest, Romania. I'm a senior principal product management and strategy with Modus Create. It was a real pleasure to work with Intersect and Cardano ecosystem in the last couple of months. So what else about me? I have almost or around 20 years of experience working in tech, startups, consultancy, big corporates, and so on. And so now this challenge of working on the open source world with main blockchain player.
Thank you. So we know there's a number of different things that we worked on as far as the build here for the open source office as well as the open source committee. I think one of the things I could start by asking you about is your participation and collaboration on the strategy documents for open source strategy as an open source office, but also the strategy in general, which is assimilated for the open source committee.
Yeah, strategy. It's quite a hyper, right? So everything starts with the strategy, and for us was pretty big challenge to firstly establish who we are and what we want to do and which are our base values here at Intersect. And this was a very collaborative work with other stakeholders and committees in Cardano and Intersect ecosystem. We had a few sessions with different players, and we started with some basic questions like who we are, which are our main people that are going to benefit from this strategy and stuff like that. We actually started with a framework based on mission, vision, strategic pillars, goals, and actions, and then based on these actions, some key metrics. So everything was to establish at the beginning the mission and vision and some core values, and then based on these top level strategic elements to define the strategic pillars. So it was, let's say in a nutshell, something like, wait a second. It was something like defining that we are doing this open source strategy for the Cardano community and its contributors, and being guided by values like openness, legitimacy, citizenship, quality, and sustainability. And then we said, like, because this is important for us, we are going to focus on technical sustainability, governance, and decision making, and community engagement and collaboration. And then based on that, some goals would emerge, and based on these goals, some actions will be established. I don't know, Tex, did I cover everything, or are some other areas that I should dig deeper?
No, I think that covers it quite well. I appreciate you sharing on that here. Of course, as you mentioned, we had to start with the mission and vision. We had to understand why we were writing the strategy and where we were going with it, and then implementing those core values here. Now, in terms of our strategic pillars here, this aligns with the blockchain in general, right, and the build of it from that open source perspective. So technical sustainability is a big part of that. as we work through the Voltaire era here in SIP 1694. A big focus on the governance and decision making that takes place, and then as a members-based organization here at Intersect, keeping a focus on that community engagement and collaboration. So that rounds out the strategic pillars there, and what we'll make sure is that we have our link to our Gitbook page out here in the description. That way everyone can come and review everything that we have for the open source committee, the open source office, and of course, more specifically, the strategy and some of the other big pieces that we'll talk about here.
Yeah, and just like an example, for sure everything is in this these Gitbook pages, but just as an example, one of the goals, the first goal, for example, is by Q4 2024, all Intersect maintained Cardano projects will have been audited and made decisions based on the project lifecycle framework. And one of the key factors here was to establish and draft and also test this project lifecycle framework. And then based on that, some actions were defined, like establish this lifecycle framework, evaluate projects according to the lifecycle framework, some metrics like, for example, 100%. So all the projects will be audited by the end of the years and so on and so forth.
Yes, sir. So I think that leads right into the project lifecycle and project incubation. I know you had quite a bit of work on that. Can you share some more about what that looked like, or how that would move from one phase to the next?
Yes, the life cycle, as I said, was one of the key steps. This was defining or trying to understand which are the main stages that we want to cluster the projects, starting with the incubation and then going through the whole life cycle until the sunset, and then establishing some key metrics on how we'll define where a certain projects will fall. And then we have tested this framework and trying to see if a certain projects will be fully covered by all these stages that we define for the framework. So, for example, for the incubation, the criteria to say like on certain projects, it's incubation phase. This project could be a new or newly forked project with minimal active code base at the beginning and few or no active contributors. Also, there were established some goals in order to move a project from one stage to another stage. And in this case, for incubation, some of the goals will be to establish a clear project vision and roadmap, or build actually build a foundation technical infrastructure and attract initial contributors and establish a user base. And based on these goals that we want for an incubation project, they will also establish actions in order to move this project to the next stage, like establish a project vision and roadmap, community formation, one important thing for something that it's in the incubation phase, build technical foundation, and so on and so forth. The next one after the incubation will be growth. And again, we have here a stage definition, what means growth, which are the criteria that we are going to assess and decide that a certain project is in a growth phase, and also, as before, some goals and actions to move this project to a next stage. After growth will be maturity, with some kind of criteria again for maturity, with for example, on a mature project would be something that is large and having an active community with diverse contributions, being stable and reliable, having a stable and reliable code base, and so on, again, goals and so on. And at the end could be something, or is something like decline or sunset, again, with criteria, goals, actions, and some monitoring and evaluation. And after decline, something that we might say, okay, this is going to go somehow down. We have something that could be like abandoned or sunset. So these are the main stages that were defined for the framework.
Right. Well, on that note, you mentioned quite a bit about the community, building and growing that community, and that really leads right into the maintainer piece here, which is quite important as that hits the second goal or moves into the second goal there as well. We talked about projects being maintained by Intersect, right? So, of course, as it stands right now, we have ownership of the repos, but that doesn't mean that we are the maintainers or whichever. So what we want to do is we want to grab those maintainers from the community. And can you share with us some more on how y'all were instrumental in helping to build our documentation for what classifies somebody as a maintainer, as a qualified maintainer?
Yeah, this was actually a big chunk of work to understand and define what is a maintainer and how a maintainer is going to emerge somehow from a contributor and what it's a contributor and so on and so on. So a big work here to define all these puzzle pieces and understand who could be and how can I, if I'm an active contributor, how can I be more involved as a maintainer. Text we can pause somehow here, or I don't know, because this maintainer thing wasn't actually on my plate, and is it possible to pause the real thing?
I will take a look at that, but what we can do is I would just say, I'm going to cut this section, of course, but if you'll give me kind of just maybe one final statement on it, and then I'll move on from there.
Wait a second to find this thing into the Git book here. Where is the maintainer thing? Project incubation lifecycle, developer experience. Do we have the maintainer thing here in the Git book?
I don't know if it's been updated there yet, but I got something here. I think you still have access to this.
Okay, responsibilities. Okay, I can talk a bit about the responsibilities.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, I will start right now, and you are going to cut this this part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the key things were to define which are the responsibilities of a maintainer, and we land with 5 or 6, something like this. So the first one, and maybe the most important one, is it's about the code review and integration. Another one, it's project management. So, for example, a maintainer is going to oversee the project direction, set the goals, priorities, tasks, and ensure that everything is according to the core values. Also, another thing, key responsibility for a maintainer, is the community engagement. For sure, they should keep the community engaged and providing support to foster a welcoming environment. Quality assurance, it's another one. Security assurance, a very important one. They should coordinate, for example, with security specialists to check, implement, and deliver the highest level of security standards. And last but not least, for sure, it's leadership. Because a maintainer is a leader, and they set the vision for the project and guide the strategic direction. For sure, everything it's more detailed. Every point that I mentioned before has some sub points, and it's a quite long document to understand how someone can be established and promote themselves as a maintainer.
So as maintainers, with that leadership and that community engagement piece, that is one of those responsibilities we talked about. I know there was a tool you had looked at building there for Discord, which is going to be our primary communication for not only developers, but the community overall. And so I'm wondering if you can tell us just a little bit more about the Discord tool, the purpose, how that build came through, and we're still working on that here on the back end. But again, if we can kind of focus on just that creation aspect, that's what we'll take a look at first.
Yeah, sure. I love to talk about this subject. So everything started with this community thing. So we have to be sure that community is engaged, and everyone in the community side has their own voice, and so on and so on. But for one single person will be quite complicated to read and understand and have an eye all the time on all discussions on all channels and maybe all platforms, because before Discord was several platforms. Anyway, for the moment is Discord. How could we understand what's happening on these channels, rooms, and so on? And here was the idea: why to not take the advantage of this large language models and get these messages, these discussions, and put them in a kind of machine, and then to understand which are the topics that are discussed on each room, each channel, which are the sentiments per topic, per channel, which are very important, the emerging topics, because we have some key topics, but maybe something new comes today. And we have built a backend app that actually ingests all these messages that are trafficked on Discord, and from these messages and in these discussions are extracted main topics, emerging topics, sentiments, and so on. And now everything is visual, and it's very easy to understand how, for example, a topic like security, it spreads maybe on different rooms, or who are the main discussion drivers for a security topic. So it's pretty interesting, and it's a good use case besides a bot, a ChatGPT thing, to use a large language model to have a kind of good understanding of what we are doing with the community.
Well, definitely thank you for sharing there. Yes, super important there, and something that we do look to implement as quickly as possible here. We definitely want to be gathering that sentiment, again, citing back to the fact that we are a members-based organization, and then, of course, the importance of conversations that they have, whether that is, as you mentioned, security, or even just the development of code or the evolution of a project, right? Now, following all of that together here, a lot of this tends to get summarized as far as our monthly Bitergia reports. And this is data that we get from a more granular perspective, of course, but I know that you had a few shares of working with this tool and working with the report in general. Can you tell us some more on that?
Yeah, so the Bitergia actually it's more like a visualization tool, and for sure it uses data that comes from different points. So one of them, for example, GitHub. But data without a story doesn't tell too much. So on one side we have a visualization tool like Bitergia to understand different aspects of what Intersect and Cardano community does on GitHub, for example. But this is one part of the story. The other part is, for example, and this was the challenge here, to create a report about, let's say, our state of nation, let's say for a certain month, or for the current or the past quarter. And the data is huge here, many data points, many things. Again, it's quite hard for one single person, sometimes with limited resources, to comprehend and have all the nuances that builds the whole story. And for that reason, again, was a large language model that come into the play, and saying, okay, look, this is the data. Um, this is what we have. This is what we are trying to understand. Here are our main objectives, and please ingest this data and tell us if we are aligned with our goals that are coming from the strategy that I was talking about before. For sure, the whole document about the strategy, not only the goals, but also the action metrics and so on. So having the data on one side, having the metrics on the other side, having the criteria and the red flags being defined on the other side, it was built a kind of RAG system that ingested all this data from different points, and being able to assist a human, a real human, in order to create this report. So this report is not fully automated by an LLM, but instead is providing to the person that is creating the report all the narratives and how the data that are, for example, for a certain month, is aligned with what we want to do in this month, and providing this more accurate lens about how and what we are doing, then this report was much easier to be built. So in my opinion and my own estimation, I think that this kind of report, only using a human power, was about like 1 week to build, and we reduced the time to 1 day.
Yeah, it definitely took a long time when we were just doing it on our own there, and we had our own creation or creativity perspective at that time as well. So we were able to use some other tools and get that improved, and definitely want to thank you for your support on that. And I think it's definitely important that you mentioned that we have to tell the story with the report as well. It's not just a matter of putting data out there and saying, hey, here it is. No, we've got to tell what's going on and what that data actually means. I guess I'll give you an opportunity here as far as the length of time that we had engagement here between Modus and Intersect. What are some maybe overall highlights or anything else you'd want to add in here?
My God, for me was, to be very honest, a big challenge to understand how a member-based organization works, the whole ecosystem about blockchain, different key players, stakeholders, and so on. So on a personal level, let's say, was a very interesting project with many things that I learned. many things that I will say at this moment I have a better understanding, and I think and I hope actually that my big bias to asking all the time why, as a product manager, because as a formation I'm a product manager, and trying to understand which is the key benefit that some of the users or stakeholders take from our actions, was for me very important. And also I think that was very beneficial for Intersect and all the stakeholders that I was interacting with.
I'm definitely glad that you were able to get some growth going there, alongside the challenge that you said had mounted up in front of you. Do want to appreciate you taking some time with us. If there's nothing else that you have to add, we will close this one down here for now. But I definitely want to encourage everyone, like, comment, subscribe, tell us some more about what you might want to hear for anything we discussed here today. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Bud.
Great. Thank you, Tex. Thank you, everyone. Bye.